Hello, friends. Welcome to a journey beneath our own sky. Tonight, we drift through the quiet wonders of Earth, a planet that breathes, glows, and remembers. Let your mind wander with the mountains and the seas. Let curiosity rest gently beside awe. Moonlight lays a soft ribbon across quiet hills. A faint silver hush settles the edges of the world. Earth carries long memories in stone, and they keep steady time. The planet formed about 4.54 billion years ago, and its early crust cooled enough to hold the first oceans within a few 100 million years. Ancient microbial communities built layered mounds called stromatolites more than 3.5 billion years ago, leaving fossils that still sit in shallow water today. Later, photosynthetic microbes released oxygen, and the Great Oxidation Event reshaped the atmosphere roughly 2.4 billion years ago. Oxygen first rusted iron in the seas, then gathered in air, allowing complex metabolisms to arise. Continents drifted as plates moved slowly on the mantle. They still move about as fast as fingernails grow. Mountains rise when plates meet, and over time weather lowers them grain by grain. Earth's magnetic field flips direction irregularly, recorded in cooling lavas like stripes on the seafloor. Polar wander marks these changes without disturbing day-to-day life. The moon's pull slows our planet's spin, a tiny amount each century, lengthening days so slowly that only geologic clocks can feel it. Tree rings record good years and lean years, wide when rain is generous and narrow when seasons tighten. Ice cores hold bubbles of old air, preserving past temperatures and greenhouse gas levels with delicate fidelity. Fossils trace the quiet persistence of life through extinctions and recoveries, always reshaping. The timeline is vast, but it runs through humble details you can touch. The world is old, but it is not tired. It keeps time with tides and crystals, with rings and layers. Lie back and let that steadiness lend you its calm. Let your breath match a slower clock and drift toward rest. Dawn hangs like pale gauze above sleeping ridgelines. The ground holds yesterday and a billion yesterdays in patient layers. Beneath your feet, time folds upon itself, pages pressed together until they become stone. Each grain of sand, each shard of crystal, remembers something the sky has already forgotten. Zircon grains buried in the oldest rocks are older than 4.3 billion years. They are tiny fragments of Earth's first crust, survivors from an age when oceans were just forming and the air shimmered with steam. Inside them lies the memory of cooling magma and the first liquid water, a quiet confirmation that even in heat and chaos, stability found its way. Continents rose and drifted like slow-moving rafts across a glowing mantle. Over eons, they met and parted, gathering into immense landmasses. Columbia, Rodinia, Pangaea, each lasting hundreds of millions of years before breaking again into smaller pieces. The motion never stopped. Deep within, convection currents in the mantle circulate heat outward, pushing and pulling rigid plates above. Along their seams, molten rock wells upward to create new ocean floor. Spreading at only a few centimeters each year, rice grain a week across a dinner plate. Yet that small movement writes mountains, opens seas, and redraws the face of the planet. Where plates collide, one slides beneath another and sinks into the mantle. This process, called subduction, melts old crust and releases gases that fuel chains of volcanoes at the surface. Each eruption adds minerals to the growing continents, recycling matter through fire. The same motion drives earthquakes that shudder briefly through the crust before the deep quiet returns. Through all this, heat escapes slowly, like breath through sleep, balancing the planet's inner restlessness. At Earth's heart, a molten outer core of iron churns around a solid inner one. That motion generates the magnetic field, a shield that deflects solar wind and preserves the air we breathe. Without it, the atmosphere would have thinned long ago, stripped away by radiation. Magnetic reversals, when north and south exchange places, occur irregularly across millions of years. As basalt cools at mid-ocean ridges, tiny crystals of iron align with the field, recording its direction. These frozen compasses form stripes on the sea floor, silent proof that the planet remembers even its invisible movements. In shallower layers, sedimentary rocks hold delicate imprints of water and wind. Ripples, crossbeds, and mud cracks reveal where ancient shorelines stood. Each layer marks a climate, a pulse of warmth or cold, of flood or drought. Through these quiet records, we see that Earth's moods wander, yet stay balanced by feedbacks that keep oceans liquid and air breathable. Carbonate platforms built in shallow tropical seas record chemistry in the ratios of oxygen and carbon isotopes, subtle fingerprints of ancient temperatures and atmospheric changes. More than 2 billion years ago, tiny organisms changed everything. Cyanobacteria, feeding on sunlight, began to release oxygen as waste. For countless generations, it dissolved iron from the oceans, forming massive deposits of banded ironstone. Then oxygen spilled into the air, transforming the planet's chemistry in what we now call the Great Oxidation Event. The skies turned from hazy orange to soft blue. Rocks on land reddened as iron rusted in their pores. It was not a single moment, but a slow dawn that allowed complex life to breathe. Life has stumbled many times since. Around 252 million years ago, during the Permian extinction, more than 90% of marine species vanished. Volcanic eruptions, climate shifts, and chemical imbalances stripped the seas of oxygen. Forests thinned, the air grew harsh. Yet, in the aftermath, new forms appeared, ancestors of modern plants and animals, carrying forward the thread. Each extinction rewrote the rules, and each recovery showed the same quiet resilience. Life adjusts, endures, begins again. Over the last 2.6 million years, the rhythm of ice and thaw has carved the world we know. Ice sheets have advanced and retreated many times, scraping valleys, moving rivers, and lowering seas. When the ice withdrew, it left behind fertile plains, new lakes, and long, curving ridges of gravel that mark the edge of its reach. These glacial pulses have reshaped coastlines by hundreds of kilometers. Even now, mountains rebound slowly from the weight, once pressing them down. The planet flexes, but it never forgets its equilibrium. Under the soil and stone, isotopes decay at steady rates, ticking away like hidden metronomes. They measure the passing of billions of years without sound, without light. If you could listen to them, you'd hear the faint rhythm of eternity, slow, deliberate, certain. It is the same steadiness you feel in your own breath when you are still. Every pebble underfoot is older than every word you know. Every cliff is a memory of movement so slow it feels like sleep. The story of deep time is not just distance and number, it is patience embodied. Mountains rise and wear away, continents wander and meet again, seas bloom and empty, and life changes its form, but not its persistence. Through heat and ice, through quiet and eruption, Earth keeps its pace. It has seen worlds end and worlds begin again, yet its orbit continues without hesitation. Imagine that slowness, that immense calm surrounding you. The same crust that cradles forests and cities once glowed red with magma. Yet now it lies cool beneath your hands. The air you breathe was built by ancient cells that never saw the sky. The light that touches the hills tonight has bounced from clouds that were once vapor rising from seas that once filled other basins. everything circles back. The planet does not hurry, it endures. As morning thins its light, like silk, you can feel the weight of that endurance, not as burden, but as comfort. A reassurance that even in motion, there is constancy. That the ground beneath you holds more stories than you could ever dream, and each one ends in quiet. Somewhere, crystals still form, plates still drift, and magnetic lines still trace their invisible dance. But here, in this still moment, you share their rhythm, the clock that cannot be heard until everything else grows silent. Night's sheen rests on a glassy bay like poured ink. Far below, unseen life sifts light into quiet work. The ocean holds its breath in long, slow rhythms, rising and falling under the pull of the moon, covering more than 2/3 of our planet. It cradles nearly all of Earth's free water, storing heat, dissolving gases, and shaping weather with steady hand. Warm currents drift across the surface, carrying energy from equator to pole. Cold, dense water forms far to the north and south, sinking like slow rain into the deep and beginning its centuries-long journey through the global conveyor, a continuous exchange that balances the planet's warmth. In the sunlit shallows, a living dust of color drifts through the blue. Phytoplankton, microscopic plants, suspended in the upper ocean, turn sunlight into sugar and release oxygen with quiet precision. Nearly half the oxygen in every breath you take began here, in these floating gardens. Their green cells divide, feed tiny grazers called zooplankton, and start a chain that rises through fish, seabirds, and whales. When these small drifters die, a portion of their carbon sinks into darkness, locking away what once floated in the air. The sea, without words, helps us breathe and helps the world cool. Where coasts lean into wind, the water rises from below. This upwelling draws nutrients from ancient deep pools, carrying them upward like secrets resurfacing after centuries. Blooms of plankton follow, spreading color across the surface. Fish gather, then seabirds, then dolphins. Energy moves upward through hunger and response, a circle of motion that never quite ends. Even in stillness, the ocean rearranges itself, a restless balance between calm and renewal. Far below the reach of light, a quieter procession begins each dusk. Tiny creatures rise through hundreds of meters of water to feed near the surface, then retreat before dawn. This vertical migration is the planet's largest movement of life, billions of bodies lifting and sinking in unison every night. Lanternfish, jellyfish, shrimp, and other delicate swimmers join this tide of hunger and retreat. It is invisible to human eyes, yet it moves more mass than all herds and flocks on land combined. The sea dreams in motion, and those dreams rise and fall with the stars. Along warm shores, certain plankton answer disturbance with light. When waves break or paddles stir the surface, dinoflagellates flash in brief, cool sparks, a chemical reaction born of luciferin and luciferase. This light is not reflection, but creation, a silent glow that runs along the hands of swimmers and the keels of small boats. In places like Mosquito Bay and the Maldives, whole coastlines shimmer at night, each ripple igniting blue fire. It is a calm spectacle, a memory of stars in liquid form. Even the smallest cell, disturbed in darkness, becomes a lantern. Where shallows give way to clarity, coral reefs rise like intricate sculptures. Built by colonies of tiny animals, their skeletons of calcium carbonate form walls, arches, and labyrinths that host almost a quarter of all marine life. Reefs occupy less than 1% of the ocean floor, yet they nurture countless species. Fish weaving through coral branches, crustaceans hiding in pockets of shadow, sponges filtering water grain by grain. Within these structures, cooperation thrives. Algae living inside coral cells feed their hosts with sugar, while corals offer shelter and minerals. When water warms or turns acidic, this partnership weakens, and bleaching begins a quiet unraveling of color that reminds us how finely tuned these systems are. Still, even damaged reefs can heal if currents bring balance back. The reef breathes with patience. Its builders rise at night to feed, layering new stone upon old, building the future one molecule at a time. Sound moves through water faster and farther than through air. Low frequencies roll across ocean basins, carrying the calls of blue and fin, whales for thousands of kilometers. These tones, inaudible to human ears without translation, connect lives scattered by vast distances. A single call can cross from one ocean margin to another, a deep communication shaped by pressure, temperature, and salinity. Dolphins use bursts of clicks to navigate and recognize one another. Fish drum and croak in breeding seasons. Even icebergs and rain leave acoustic signatures that scientists use to map the hidden world. The sea, though silent to us above, is filled with voices beneath, low, rhythmic, and patient as breathing. At the poles, cold, saline water sinks into the abyss, creating the deep currents that complete the ocean's global circulation. These masses can take 1,000 years to return to the surface, carrying with them the memory of climates long past. As they travel, they collect nutrients from decaying matter that rains down from above, feeding deep ecosystems where sunlight never penetrates. There, creatures live by other lights, flashes of bioluminescence, the faint glow of chemical reactions that mimic dawn in darkness. The deep ocean remains largely unexplored. We have mapped Mars more clearly than our own abyss. Yet every expedition reveals the same truth. Life finds a way to persist, even where pressure could crush metal and light has never existed. Near rocky coasts, kelp forests sway in green cathedrals. Giant algae stretch upward, their blades catching sunlight that filters down in shifting columns. Kelp slows waves, softens erosion, and provides refuge for countless species. Otters float among these forests, wrapping themselves in fronds to rest. Beneath them, fish feed, snails graze, and crabs hunt in the dim, moving light. The kelp itself grows swiftly, some species rising more than 0.5 meter in a day, transforming sunlight and carbon into biomass faster than most land plants. When storms tear fronds away, the drifting kelp becomes food for scavengers across the seafloor, continuing its quiet service, even in death. Seagrass meadows spread across calmer bays and lagoons, their slender blades waving under slow tides. They anchor sediments, filter water, and capture carbon in soils that can hold it for centuries. These submerged prairies, though less visible than coral reefs, may store more carbon per area than tropical forests. Dugongs, turtles, and countless fish graze among them, keeping growth trimmed and circulation steady. The rhythm here is gentle: growth, grazing, decay, renewal, a continuous exhale that keeps the water clear and the shore firm. Even a single drop of seawater contains multitudes. Millions of microorganisms, bacteria, archaea, viruses, and plankton drift together, recycling nutrients, breaking down organic matter, and rebuilding it into forms that rise again through the food web. Some fix nitrogen from the air dissolved in water, others oxidize sulfur or methane, converting invisible gases into energy. These cycles operate silently, linking the smallest scales to the largest systems. The drop becomes an ocean in miniature, a galaxy of cells turning sunlight and minerals into the chemistry of life. The ocean also carries heat away from the equator and returns coolness in its place, smoothing extremes that would otherwise split the world between fire and ice. It absorbs about a quarter of the carbon dioxide released by human activity and most of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases, acting as a vast buffer that delays the full impact of change. Yet this service has limits. As the water warms and acidifies, its ability to hold both heat and carbon decreases, and the balance begins to shift. Still, even in uncertainty, the sea continues its slow breathing, steadying the rhythm of the planet. Every wave that reaches the shore has traveled with purpose, shaped by wind, gravity, and the curve of the earth. It carries history dust from deserts, salts from rocks, whispers of ancient rain. Standing beside it, you feel the quiet persistence of time itself. Beneath that calm surface, unseen millions work, feeding, glowing, building, drifting. Together, they keep the planet's air sweet and its pulse steady. The sea never sleeps, but it knows how to rest. And as you listen, you might feel its slow exhale move through you, a reminder that calm and motion can live in the same breath. Early light threads through needles and fern fronds like pale embroidery. The forest stirs without a sound, and beneath that quiet, a second world hums. Beneath the moss, roots stretch and weave into the soil's dark weave, meeting threads of fungi so fine they slip between grains of sand. These mycorrhizal filaments are thinner than a hair, yet vast enough to knit together entire groves. They carry messages, nutrients, and balance a silent commerce older than speech. Each tree sends carbon down from its leaves, sugars shaped from sunlight, and the fungi return water, phosphorus, nitrogen, and trace minerals. It is not a bargain, but a rhythm, a whisper of exchange that binds the forest into one breathing being. Within these threads, information moves as gently as wind. When insects chew at one tree's leaves, chemical signals flow through the soil to its neighbors. Nearby trunks respond by fortifying their own defenses, weaving bitter compounds into their tissues before the threat arrives. In times of drought, the network shifts its priorities, shuttling water to roots under greatest strain. What looks still from above is, below the surface, a living conversation, a soft pulse of generosity and response. In older forests, the connections are more intricate still. Large trees, elders with deep roots and stored reserves feed shaded saplings and seedlings through these same networks. Even when sunlight never touches their crowns, young trees survive because others share their strength. The old feed the young, the healthy steady the weak. Survival here is not a solitary act. On the forest floor, every fallen leaf carries another chapter of this slow companionship. Leaf litter collects and softens, sheltering beetles, mites, worms, and millipedes that shred it into fragments. Microbes complete the work, unlocking elements that roots will draw up again. Nutrients are not lost but cycled, dissolved into the breath of soil. In a handful of earth, there may be billions of bacteria, meters of fungal thread, and countless microscopic architects rebuilding what time has worn away. Decomposition is only another form of creation. It is how the forest breathes through endings. Above, the canopy makes its own kind of shelter. Interlocking branches filter the sun into green gold, a steady calm that cools the air and slows the wind. Each tree transpires water through tiny pores in its leaves, and together, billions of such breaths rise like invisible mist. This vapor feeds clouds that drift and gather, sometimes releasing their burden as rain far beyond the forest's edge. In this way, trees summon their own weather, their quiet labor, nourishing rivers and fields they will never see. The forest builds its peace into the sky, a faint imprint that travels with the wind. Where animals move, they extend the forest's reach. Birds swallow berries and scatter seeds in arcs of flight. Foxes carry them in fur or gut, dropping them in open clearings where light can fall again. A single fruit can give birth to a grove miles away. Even ants plant forests in miniature, carrying seeds into their nests and forgetting some, which then sprout in the safety of soil turned by their tunneling. Each motion multiplies life. Each journey carries the pattern onward. In colder regions, the pattern changes, but endures. Conifers guard their green through short summers and long winters, their needles wrapped in wax, their shapes narrow to shed snow and preserve moisture. Beneath them, mosses hold frost like memory, thawing in the brief light to drink and glow before the chill returns. In tropical forests, the pattern grows more complex. Layer upon layer of leaves divides the light, understory, canopy, emergent crowns, each home to its own language of calls and scents. Monkeys move through corridors of air. Insects trace the seams of bark. Orchids draw food from the very moisture they breathe. Every niche is filled, and still the web holds, stretching but never tearing. Dead wood rests like an archive on the ground. It gathers moss, becomes sponge, and offers shelter to beetles and salamanders. Fungi thread through its grain, breaking down lignin and cellulose into the soft humus that will cradle new roots. Even after storms, the forest keeps its continuity. Fallen trunks do not mark failure. They are the next layer of soil, the next generation's foundation. In time, what stood tall becomes what supports the tall again. Every death is folded into the living structure. When disturbance comes, fire, wind, flood, it is the same cycle written in another hand. A gap opens, light spills down. Seeds that have waited for years sense the change and wake. Fast-growing pioneers take hold first, spreading leaves wide to claim the Sunday. They stabilize the ground with quick roots, slow the runoff, and shade the soil. Later, shade-tolerant trees arrive, their growth measured and lasting, weaving a longer story above the first. In a few decades, the scars fade. In a century, the memory survives only in the pattern of trunks and the slope of soil. The forest heals by replacing, not by restoring what was lost, but by making what fits now. This patience is its defining grace. A forest never hurries. Its progress is counted in rings too small to notice day by day. When we walk among the trees, we borrow that patience for a while. The steady shade, the faint scent of resin and loam, the quiet order beneath our feet, they remind us that cooperation need not be loud and endurance need not be fierce. Every root, every filament, every grain of soil contributes to a piece assembled over centuries. It is a piece that does not depend on us, but includes us the moment we listen. At night, when the air cools and mist gathers near the ground, the forest continues its invisible conversation. Nutrients move, fungal threads hum softly with chemical exchanges. Small creatures tunnel and feed, and decaying leaves release their final warmth. The canopy sighs with moisture, releasing faint vapors that join the stars' reflection in ponds and streams. All of it connected, all of it measured, none of it wasted. The forest beneath the forest holds the memory of rain and the promise of another dawn. And as the night lengthens, calm seeps upward from root to branch. The world narrows to scent, to silence, to breath. You could fall asleep here and never miss a moment, because the forest will keep breathing for you. Beneath every step, patience is alive. Beneath every tree, generosity waits in the dark. And somewhere in that unseen weave, your own quiet pulse joins the rhythm that keeps the forest whole. A faint pearl of dawn clings to blades of grass. Quiet bodies wait, then wake. Beneath dew and stone, in leaf litter and frost, the smallest forms of life hold a talent we often forget, the art of waiting. They do not rush the morning. They do not chase time. They slow it down until it bends around them. Tardigrades, those nearly invisible water bears, shrink into tiny curls when the world becomes dry or cold. They lose almost all their water, wrapping themselves in a protective shell called a tun. Inside that shell, everything slows heartbeat, breath, thought, even chemistry. For years, or even decades, they can endure like that. The air may scorch or freeze, radiation may strike, vacuum may pull at their edges, yet they remain intact. When moisture finally touches them again, they unfold softly, as if time had only blinked. Wood frogs, resting beneath forest leaves, practice a similar magic each winter. As snow seals the ground, their hearts stop. Their blood thickens with glucose, a natural antifreeze that keeps their cells from tearing. For months they lie still, ice in their veins, eyes glazed yet alive. When the first thaw seeps through the soil, their hearts beat once more, slow and sure, and spring begins again. No effort, no struggle, just trust in a rhythm older than memory. Across deserts, silence waits for rain. Seeds lie buried, dusted and forgotten, their shells sealed tight. Centuries may pass before the right pattern of warmth, moisture, and light returns. Yet inside each tiny vessel, an embryo holds its breath. When the rain finally falls, it wakes, splits, and reaches upward, as if no time had passed at all. Some of these seeds outlive civilizations. A date palm sprouted from a seed 2,000 years old, proof that life can sleep longer than our stories can remember. The desert keeps them safe, the way the mind keeps a dream waiting for morning. Brine shrimp rest in the same quiet promise. Their cysts harden and wait through seasons of salt and drought. When the water returns, they hatch, swim, and fill new pools with movement. If the pools dry again, their young will repeat the cycle, ensuring that each drought ends not with loss but with pause. It is a choreography written in stillness. Life halts, rewinds, then resumes. Bacteria, among the oldest survivors of all, mastered this patience billions of years ago. In harsh soil or burning desert, they form spores, tiny sealed chambers around their DNA. Inside, the essence of the cell sleeps while the outside world blazes, freezes, or dries. Some spores revived after tens of millions of years trapped in ancient salt crystals, carrying proof that waiting can cross epochs. They do not dream or hope, they simply remain, faithful to the possibility of better weather. Even in the farthest cold, beneath the polar ice, microbes continue quietly. Inside narrow veins of brine, they sip at salts and trace elements, carrying on metabolism at the edge of freezing. They move slowly, so slowly that a single cell's lifetime may stretch across human centuries. Yet in that slowness there is a strange grace, a reminder that speed is not the measure of vitality. Sometimes to live well, you must live slowly. In the deep dark of caves, where no sunlight reaches, patience takes another shape. Creatures grow pale and long-lived. They spend years on a single meal, storing energy, feeling their way through the dark with antennae and scent. The air hardly stirs. The water drips in rhythms counted not by minutes but by seasons. Life there does not chase, it listens. Every heartbeat, every movement is deliberate. Along the coasts, where the tide breathes in and out, endurance means learning to change with the hours. Barnacles and mussels cling to rock, gripping tight as waves crash, sealing themselves when the tide falls and the air dries them out. Their shells lock moisture in until the sea returns. Crabs hide under stones, limpets press against their homes, each waiting for the familiar, cool touch of water. The rhythm of the ocean becomes their clock, dependable and eternal. Even the warm deserts hum with restraint. Kangaroo rats and jerboas sleep through the burning day, stepping out only when the sand cools. Their kidneys squeeze every drop of water from their food. Their bodies lose almost none to sweat. Under the moon, they move like small shadows, efficient and calm. Their world offers little, so they take only what they need, turning scarcity into balance. These lives, scattered across ice, sand, forest, and sea, share one quiet understanding. Strength is not always in motion. Sometimes it is in stillness, in the pause between storms, in the breath held through cold nights. Life endures by stepping aside from the rush. Tardigrades curl, frogs freeze, seeds sleep, and bacteria seal themselves in glassy time. They are teachers of patience, examples of survival through surrender. The emotional current beneath their silence is familiar to us. We, too, hold moments when we must stop, when rushing breaks what waiting could preserve. Like seeds, we store energy during dry seasons, waiting for our own rains. Like the frog beneath snow, we trust that warmth will come again, that movement will return when it should. The earth itself moves in this rhythm, seasons slowing, then waking, over and over, each cycle a breath. In the grand weave of life, these small survivors remind us that resilience does not always roar. It hums softly, wrapped in dust and frost. The tardigrade in its tun, the seed in its shell, the frog beneath its icy blanket, all whisper the same quiet lesson. Survival is not defiance. It is patience made perfect. When you think of them, imagine their tiny hearts, steady under snow, their hidden worlds waiting without fear. They do not measure time in hours or years, but in possibilities. One drop of water, one rise in warmth, one ray of sun, and everything stirs again. In their stillness, they mirror the calm the body seeks before sleep. Life does not always push. It sometimes rests, measured and precise. And when the next breath of water or warmth arrives, it opens, quietly, as if waking from a gentle dream. First light spreads like a thin watercolor across the edges of passing clouds. The air itself seems to breathe in color, exhaling pale silver and the faint promise of warmth. Color, on Earth, is never just painted on. It is born from structure, from light itself, folding and scattering through matter. Many creatures that shimmer with impossible blues do not carry a single drop of blue pigment. Instead, microscopic ridges and layers within their feathers, shells, or scales split light apart. The shorter wavelengths bounce back first, scattering into our eyes as radiant blue. A morpho butterfly opens its wings and the hue tilts, deep then pale depending on the angle. The same light, the same wing, and yet a different color, an illusion made real by structure, not dye. The sky follows a similar principle. Sunlight, composed of every wavelength, meets molecules in the air. Shorter blue waves scatter more easily, filling the dome above us with calm brightness. When the sun falls toward the horizon, its light travels farther through the atmosphere. Blue is scattered away, leaving behind the warm reds and oranges of dusk. It is a soft alchemy of distance and air, turning the ordinary into something we feel more than understand. Each sunrise is a chemical whisper, the planet simply filtering light, yet the result touches emotion before thought. In the depths of the ocean, color behaves differently. Water absorbs light from the spectrum, eating reds first, then yellows, until only blue remains. But even where sunlight cannot reach, light still exists. Some creatures make their own, glowing through a reaction between luciferin and luciferase, a flash of cold fire beneath the waves, a lure for prey, a beacon for a mate, or a veil to disappear into. Fireflies on land use the same chemistry, their tiny lanterns flickering across meadows like rhythmic heartbeats. In the sea, however, bioluminescence is everywhere. Jellies, shrimp, plankton, even fish carrying symbiotic bacteria that live only to glow. The ocean is not dark, it is stitched with quiet lamps that pulse in time with life's own patience. The language of light extends into the hidden spectrum where human eyes cannot follow. Flowers mark their petals with ultraviolet patterns, invisible to us but bright as road signs to bees. These guides point straight to nectar, directing pollinators to the heart of the bloom. To a bee, a plain white daisy is a ring of glowing pathways, a map drawn in invisible ink. Birds, too, can see into ultraviolet ranges. Their plumage holds signals we never perceive, marks of health, fertility, or territory, all gleaming in a spectrum beyond our own. A single feather can hold layers of meaning, each wavelength telling a story to those built to hear it. White, too, can be structural. Some beetles and bird feathers shine white, not because of pigment, but because their inner structures reflect all wavelengths at once. Every color combines into one perfect absence of hue, as though light itself had found a way to rest. Pigments, when they appear, are quiet workers of color. Carotenoids create yellows and oranges. They come from food, berries, leaves, crustaceans, and so color becomes a record of nourishment. A flamingo's pink is the story of what it eats, filtered through time and biology. Melanin provides browns and blacks, deepening contrast and strengthening feathers or fur. It is a practical beauty, both armor and design. Color does not belong only to living things. In rocks, iron oxides turn soil red and ochre. These pigments once marked the first paintings made by human hands on cave walls. Copper minerals lend blue-green to weathered stone, turquoise shades that mimic the sea. Even without intent, Earth decorates itself rust in stone, mineral veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. Each hue arises from simple interactions of electrons and light, yet together they create the vast palette that covers every horizon. Above the ground, in the thin, high air, color becomes movement. When streams of charged solar particles meet the upper atmosphere, they collide with gases that glow in return. Oxygen flares green and red, nitrogen flickers violet and blue. Curtains of aurora ripple along magnetic lines, light turned liquid, bending and streaming like fabric across polar skies. Every shimmer maps the invisible field that guards the planet from radiation. What begins as solar wind ends as a dance of colors on the night side of Earth, a reminder that even cosmic storms can arrive softly. Throughout all of it, color serves without vanity. It signals, protects, and communicates. It warns a predator that poison waits beneath the skin. It invites pollinators to visit and carry life onward. It allows camouflage and courtship, defense and deception. Even when unseen by human eyes, it performs its quiet work with precision. The world uses color as both tool and language, fluent long before we gave it names. And still, color reaches us beyond survival. It evokes calm or warmth, the comfort of sunlight through leaves or the cool promise of twilight. We read emotion in it instinctively. The blue of distant hills quiets thought. The gold of morning restores direction. The crimson of embers recalls safety. These feelings are echoes of ancient signals, instincts refined into sentiment. The physics that scatters wavelengths also scatters memory, letting light become emotion. If you could see the planet as it sees itself, every surface would shimmer with function and meaning. The wings, the stones, the waves, all exchanging photons in endless dialogue. A morpho butterfly turning to catch a beam of light is no different from the sky opening after rain. It is the same law, repeating softly everywhere. As night gathers again, color fades but does not vanish. It rests, folded inside surfaces, waiting for the next sunrise to wake it. In that pause lies the same calm the world offers you now. Light will return. It always does. And when it does, the colors will be there, traveling through air, through wings, through water, quiet, exact, and unhurried. The world is always building, grain by grain. Beneath the quiet veil of dusk, sun slips like a pale veil along a quiet reef shelf. Beneath it, life begins its slow architecture. Coral polyps, soft-bodied and small, gather calcium carbonate from seawater and press it outward as stone. Each one lives for a while, then leaves behind a pale skeleton, a foundation for the next. Layer upon layer, colony upon colony, the reef grows an underwater city built without hands or plans. The pattern seems deliberate, yet it follows only simple instructions written into each tiny body. Extend, divide, build, rest. Algae live inside coral tissues, capturing sunlight and turning it into sugars. The corals use this energy to grow, while the algae shelter in the coral's walls. Together they make color, pattern, and structure that shape entire coastlines. When night deepens, polyps stretch translucent arms into dark water, catching drifting plankton like floating dust in light. By dawn, the colony breathes again in quiet rhythm with the tide. These reefs are not decoration, they are fortresses of life. They absorb the push of waves, breaking force into foam before it reaches the shore. Without them, coasts would erode, and beaches would vanish grain by grain. In their crevices hide fish of every shape and pattern, cleaners, hunters, wanderers, all tied into one steady balance. Sponges pull water through labyrinthine bodies, filtering nutrients and keeping the reef clear. Parrotfish grind old coral into sand, creating beaches that glitter in morning sunday. Every species, however small, adds one line to the blueprintless design, a quiet contribution that holds the whole together. The forest follows a similar law. Deep in tropical heat, termites raise towers from dust. Their mounds can rise taller than a person, yet no single termite knows the plan. Each one carries a grain of soil, guided by scent and temperature, by the faint gradients of humidity inside. Within the mound, tiny tunnels create a breathing system. Warm air rises through the central shaft, cool air slips in through the sides, and the flow keeps the inner chambers stable. Eggs, workers, fungus gardens all remain within a narrow range of heat, even when desert sun scorches the surface. No machine manages this, only shape, pore size, and the endless movement of thousands of small bodies. The result is a home that lasts for decades, adjusting naturally as wind and weather change. A termite mound is an instrument tuned to the air itself, resonating with physics the builders never think about. Far to the north, another engineer works with cold patience. Beavers fell trees along riverbanks, using their teeth to shape trunks into stakes. They press branches into mud, sealing leaks with leaves and clay until water slows and spreads. Behind their dams, ponds form still pools that catch sediment, hold moisture, and invite new life. Frogs breed there, ducks land and nest, water seeps down to recharge underground stores. What begins as one animal's shelter becomes a system that feeds many. When the dam breaks years later, the ground behind it stays fertile, a meadow rich with memory. A beaver never sketches the plan. It follows instinct, trial, and sound, reacting to the current's pull. Yet in time, entire valleys are softened by its persistence. On tidal flats, oysters and mussels repeat the same lesson. Each young shell settles where others already cling, secreting cement that bonds it to the next. Over time, the cluster becomes a reef, thick enough to blunt waves and cradle salt marsh grass. The oysters filter water, drawing out plankton and clearing suspended particles. A single oyster can strain dozens of liters a day, and millions together make the bay breathe clean. Around them gather crabs, snails, small fish, an orchestra of quiet filters and scavengers that thrive in the clarity their builders create. When storms pass, many shells break, but their fragments feed the next generation's base. Destruction becomes foundation, again and again, in a rhythm older than memory. Far deeper, where sunlight never touches, tube worms colonize the edges of hydrothermal vents. There, in black water near boiling, they anchor to stone and grow sheaths of chitin that rise like towers around mineral spires. Inside, symbiotic bacteria live within their tissues, using hydrogen sulfide or methane to produce energy. This chemistry feeds the worms, and through them, crabs, clams, and eel-pout fish that wander the vent fields. The structures harden as minerals settle, then collapse, then rebuild in cycles of years. Each vent is a brief city of heat and darkness, a self-contained world that thrives where others would die. Even here, where the ocean should end, there is construction, order, and calm. In the driest deserts, builders are too small to see. Lichens and bacteria form thin crusts on bare rock and sand, trapping dust and moisture. They secrete sticky compounds that bind grains together, reducing erosion and allowing the first roots to hold. The surface darkens, hardens, and gains quiet resilience. Step too roughly, and it will take decades to recover. Yet while intact, this living film protects everything beneath from wind's hunger. It is the gentlest architecture on Earth, one that depends on patience rather than strength. Across every landscape, the same principle hums beneath the surface. Complexity from simple rules, strength from repetition, permanence from cooperation. Coral builds upward, termite mound breathes, beaver pond settles, oyster reef clears, vent tower glows, desert crust binds. None of these builders see the full picture, yet together they write the world's textures. Humans call such patterns intelligent design, but nature's intelligence lies in process, not intention. Geometry, chemistry, and persistence are the architects here. Each builder works within limits. Coral dies when water warms too fast. Termite mounds erode under flood. Beaver dams rot and fall. Oysters smother under silt. Vents go cold when their sources shift. But each loss leaves a map for return. Minerals recycle, microbes seed, spores drift. Another colony begins where the last one ended, using the remains as material. There is no waste, only continuation. When you step back far enough to let detail blur, the planet itself looks like one immense construction site. Mountains rise, crumble, and rise again. Rivers braid and unbraid their channels. Ice carves, deposits, and retreats. Each event is small in its moment, but grand in accumulation. The Earth does not rush. It builds by allowing things to find their place. And perhaps that is the quiet comfort within this scene. Creation without urgency. The reef, the dam, the mound, they remind us that order can emerge from patience, that shelter can appear from repetition, that beauty can grow from persistence instead of planning. No voice commands these builders. They respond to touch, to temperature, to the shape of space. And when they finish, the world looks effortless, though it took lifetimes to form. The sun lowers toward the reef again, and the water glows gold. Polyps withdraw, termites rest, beavers drift in their ponds. Even the smallest cells in the desert crust stop their slow respiration as the surface cools. All construction pauses but never ends. The blueprints remain unspoken, stored in rhythm and response. Thin morning haze lifts like breath from a quiet lake. The air rests between warmth and coolness, light and shadow, carrying the slow pulse of the planet. Though it seems weightless, this blanket of gas holds the rhythm of every living thing. Within it, unseen loops move patiently, water rising, clouds forming, rain falling, rivers winding home again. The atmosphere is not still. It breathes in circles that never end. Each leaf joins this motion. When sunlight touches it, tiny pores called stomata open to let in carbon dioxide, the raw material of photosynthesis. Inside, green cells turn light into sugar, releasing oxygen back into the air. But the same pores that welcome life's gas also allow water to escape. So the leaf learns restraint. It opens when the morning is kind, closes when the air grows dry. In that quiet discipline, a balance holds. Enough carbon to live, enough water to last. Billions of leaves make the same calculation every hour, turning forests into vast regulators of moisture and breath. Transpiration, the gentle exhale of plants, sends invisible vapor upward. It rises, meets cooler air, and begins to gather into clouds. Forests are engines of humidity. Their breath creates their own weather. In the Amazon, this loop is immense. Nearly half of the rain that falls there is recycled from the forest itself. Water evaporates from leaves, forms clouds above the canopy, drifts with the wind, and returns as rain hundreds of kilometers away. Remove the trees, and the cycle weakens, the clouds thin, the rain slows, and the green pulse falters. The forest does not only live in soil, it lives in air. Above the oceans, a different rhythm works. Sunlight warms the surface, drawing water upward as vapor. Currents and winds carry it across basins, forming storm bands and rain belts that march with the seasons. When moist air meets mountains, it is lifted and cooled, condensing into clouds that shed rain on one slope and leave dry winds on the other. The rivers that flow from those heights carry minerals to the sea, completing the same journey in reverse. Every droplet that falls or rises is part of this quiet migration, a story told again and again in mist and thunder, dew and snow. Beneath the surface, another exchange moves more slowly. Tiny organisms called phytoplankton float near the top of the sea, turning sunlight into organic matter just as plants do on land. They capture carbon from the air, build it into their fragile bodies, and feed countless marine creatures. When they die, a small portion sinks, carrying carbon down into the deep ocean where it may stay for centuries. This steady rain of particles is the ocean's biological pump, a soft current of carbon moving downward, balancing what volcanoes and respiration send upward. It is an invisible dialogue between the living surface and the ancient depths. Volcanoes, too, join this conversation. Each eruption releases gases from Earth's interior: carbon dioxide, sulfur, water vapor, reminders that the planet still breathes from within. Over millions of years, these emissions add to the atmosphere, but they are answered by the slow patience of rock. When rain falls on mountains, it dissolves minerals that react with carbon dioxide, locking it away as stone. The sea receives this chemistry, forming shells and limestones that store carbon for eons. Through these twin paths, the fast breath of life and the slow exhale of stone, the carbon cycle keeps climate within gentle bounds. Temperature, rainfall, and growth dance together in a rhythm older than memory. Clouds act as both mirrors and blankets. High, thin cirrus scatter sunlight back to space, cooling the surface, while low, thick clouds trap warmth beneath them, holding the night soft and mild. Their behavior depends on altitude, thickness, and droplet size, each one a delicate balance of reflection and retention. Scientists still study these feedbacks, watching how rising temperatures may change cloud formation, how small shifts in their patterns could alter the planet's equilibrium. Even here, uncertainty hums like wind between leaves, reminding us that Earth's systems are intricate, alive, and not yet fully known. Dust, though often forgotten, also moves with purpose. Grains lifted from deserts cross oceans in vast plumes. The Sahara's dust drifts westward over the Atlantic, carrying iron that fertilizes plankton thousands of kilometers away. In this way, a single storm nourishes distant seas. Pollen rides similar currents, linking forests separated by mountains and distance. Spores of fungi drift on these same winds, ready to colonize new soils when they settle. The air is not empty. It is a slow river of seeds and minerals, carrying life from one world to another. Despite its thinness, just a veil compared to the size of Earth, the atmosphere connects everything. Energy moves through it as heat and light, sound and pressure. Every heartbeat, every wave, every wing beat is answered by the air around it. Even the simplest breath joins the cycle. Carbon exhaled by a sleeping human might feed a leaf tomorrow. That same carbon then returned to air by a falling autumn breeze. Nothing stands apart for long. To breathe is to take part in this endless exchange. Each inhalation carries atoms once held by trees, clouds, and oceans. Each exhalation gives them back. The air has passed through lungs, leaves, and waves for billions of years, and it will continue long after we are gone. There is comfort in that repetition, a promise that the world endures through motion, not stillness. As the haze rises and the sun warms the water's edge, the air folds gently back into its patterns. Vapor becomes cloud, cloud becomes rain, rain becomes river, and river returns to sea. The loop closes without noise or haste. Everything that breathes belongs to it. The plant in the window, the whale beneath the waves, the child asleep near an open door. The planet keeps its own steady inhalation, slow enough to soothe the restless mind. The air thinks in circles, and every circle is a calm one. Evening settles like soft charcoal along the savanna grass. The air holds its breath between the last calls of day and the hush that follows. In that dimness, quiet minds attend, remember, and respond. An elephant moves forward with a patience that feels deliberate. Her trunk traces the outline of bones, lingering over the curve of a skull, pausing as if to listen to a memory that no longer speaks. These gestures are not accidents. They mirror patterns observed again and again, elephants approaching the remains of their kin, touching them gently, sometimes returning to the same spot years later. The behavior suggests memory, recognition, perhaps even mourning. Whether it is grief as we know it or something older and deeper, it is still a conversation between presence and absence, a sign that thought lingers after life has gone. In the sea, another kind of mind listens through miles of water. Dolphins call to one another with signature whistles, each unique to an individual, as distinct as a human name. When these patterns are played back, the dolphin answers, turning or calling in reply. It is an acknowledgement, a recognition of self within sound. Their identities drift on currents, stable through years of shifting tides. These calls are not random noise, but part of a social web that requires memory and choice. Within it, companionship becomes audible, a constant reassurance that one voice still knows another. Far from ocean depths, in open skies, corvids, crows, ravens, and jays carry intelligence that gleams like obsidian. They cache food in hidden places, then remember the exact spots long after seasons change. But their memory runs deeper still. When watched by another bird, a crow may later return to move its stash, aware that it was seen. It acts not by instinct alone, but by inference, an understanding that another mind may be watching, thinking, planning. Such awareness is the seed of empathy, a fragile bridge between self and other. It does not speak, but it calculates silently, like a shadow learning to anticipate the light. Even among small wings and hums, thought takes delicate forms. Bees, trained to associate fewer shapes with a sweet reward, can later select a blank card as the smallest possible number, a grasp of 0. The concept of nothing is not easy. It is the edge of abstraction, a quiet leap beyond the visible. In those tiny golden bodies, cognition hums softly, as if the world itself is thinking through many instruments at once. Even in a hive's murmur, intelligence flickers like sunlight across thousands of wings. In mirrors, minds meet themselves. Great apes touch marks on their bodies after seeing their reflection. Dolphins twist and turn before polished panels underwater, examining spots on their skin. Elephants stand before mirrors, trunks exploring where sight meets self. Even magpies, small and black-feathered, have passed this rare test of recognition. Yet the meaning remains uncertain. Perhaps it is not self-consciousness in a human sense, but awareness layered in other forms, a map of identity drawn by scent, sound, or motion instead of thought. Still, each gesture toward the self is a shimmer of understanding, a moment where consciousness catches its own reflection before it fades again into instinct. Beneath the sea, octopuses write their thoughts in shifting colors and hidden codes. Within their neural tissues, they edit their own RNA, altering how their proteins form without changing the DNA itself. It is as if their biology keeps a rewrite function always open, ready to adapt to cold, heat, or light. Such plasticity may give them their uncanny intelligence, the quick problem-solving, the playfulness, the curiosity that watches from within unblinking eyes. Each tentacle moves with its own partial mind, yet all coordinate, as if thought itself were fluid, flowing through the body like tide water. On land, feathers flash with clever purpose. Parrots, such as the African grey, demonstrate not just mimicry, but meaning. In controlled studies, they pair words with colors, numbers, and shapes, showing understanding that goes beyond repetition. One famous parrot, Alex, once answered, "I'm sorry," after making a mistake, a phrase not trained, but chosen. His words were limited, yet they bridged a gap between minds. It was not human language, but it was language enough to touch the edge of ours. Across the planet, the languages of life are endless. Whales sing through oceans, their calls evolving over years, like drifting songs passed from one generation to the next. Prairie dogs, in open grasslands, issue alarm calls so specific they can describe the size, shape, and speed of an approaching predator. These systems are complex, patterned, meaningful evidence that communication is not a single invention, but a spectrum woven through creation. Every sound and gesture carries memory, intent, and the faint echo of understanding. And then there is play, the simplest proof of mind and joy. Young animals wrestle, chase, and tumble for no reason but delight. Even adults return to play, testing limits, strengthening bonds, reminding themselves that curiosity can survive beyond necessity. It is the same impulse that makes a crow slide down a snowy roof or a dolphin toss kelp into the air. Play is cognition made light. It teaches without intention, connects without command, and endures because it feels good to be alive. In all these behaviors, memory, planning, communication, reflection, and play, there lies a thread of kinship, not sameness, but parallel strength, a sense that awareness is not unique to one species but arises wherever life learns to listen. We see in them versions of our own attention, the pause before recognition, the decision to act, the quiet fascination with the world. Across the savanna, the forest, and the sea, countless eyes regard us, not as reflections but as companions of thought. As twilight deepens, That kinship feels close. It hums in the air, like the afterglow of a shared secret. Minds meet, drift apart, and meet again through time, each carrying its own language of wonder. The world grows quieter, but it also grows wider, filled with unseen intelligences keeping watch. And as the night unfolds, you may feel it too. The comforting thought that awareness is not alone, that every breath, every sound, every flicker of curiosity belongs to a chorus older than memory, still singing softly in the dark. Starlight rinses the edges of a distant coastline. Travelers follow cues the eye cannot see. Across the quiet dark, wings, fins, and tiny beating hearts move by maps that are written not on paper, but in the fabric of the earth itself. Beneath moonlight and magnetic pull, across winds and tides, life remembers how to find its way home. There is no confusion here, no rush, only patience, trust, and the quiet certainty that direction lives inside the body. Migratory birds sense the planet's invisible field, a soft magnetic hum that wraps the world from pole to pole. Many species use this inner compass alongside landmarks, the sun's position, and the slow turning of stars. Evidence suggests they carry more than one instrument for guidance. Within their eyes, specialized proteins respond to light and magnetism, painting faint directional patterns over their vision. Deep in their tissues, tiny crystals of magnetite may offer a second sense of pull, a physical whisper of north and south. Together, these systems create a layered awareness, light and field, instinct and memory woven into every wing beat. A robin leaving Scandinavia or a warbler crossing the Sahara does not question the route. It simply moves, sure as breath, tracing a path older than any map we've drawn. Far below the surface, sea turtles follow their own magnetic language. When hatchlings break through the sand and slip into the surf, they imprint on the unique magnetic signature of their beach, the inclination and intensity of Earth's field at that point. Decades later, grown and heavy-shelled, they return to the same stretch of shore, guided not by sight, but by the planet's invisible handwriting. Studies show they can detect minute variations in magnetism, accurate enough to lead them across entire ocean basins. The sea offers them no landmarks, no scent or sound to follow, and yet they arrive. The ocean's vastness does not erase their sense of home, it sharpens it. It's a reminder that memory can live in places deeper than thought, that even in drifting currents, there is a quiet pull toward origin. In colder rivers, salmon hatch, travel downstream, and spend years in the open ocean. When the time comes to spawn, they return to the exact waters where life began. Their navigation blends magnetism with chemistry. In the sea, they follow magnetic gradients, turning toward familiar coasts. Near land, scent takes over. Each river has a distinct chemical signature, shaped by rock, soil, and rainfall. Salmon recognize this bouquet instantly, even after half a lifetime away. They swim against currents, leaping cascades, scraping fins on gravel, all to return to one remembered stream. For them, direction is devotion, a lifelong echo of birthplace calling them home. Insects, too, travel across great distances. Monarch butterflies begin in Mexico's mountain forests, journey north across a continent, and return south again, but not as individuals. Their migration unfolds across several generations. Each butterfly flies part of the route, guided by cues of temperature, day length, and the position of the sunday. No single monarch completes the full circle, yet the cycle continues, precise and unbroken. It's a choreography written into the body, not the mind, a faith in patterns that outlast lifetimes. The same air that carries pollen and seeds carries these travelers, luminous and fragile, tracing orange lines through the seasons. Some fish move in synchrony with the tides, their lives tuned to the moon's pull. They spawn when currents shift just enough to carry eggs toward sheltered bays and reefs. Timing becomes survival. The sea itself becomes clock and compass. Coral reefs follow another rhythm of precision. Once each year, under a specific combination of temperature, current, and moonlight, entire reefs release clouds of gametes into the water at once. The timing is so exact that scientists can predict it to the hour. This mass spawning ensures fertilization in the vast ocean, a synchronized bloom of life, guided by celestial and environmental signals. It is as if the sea itself remembers, and every coral listens. Bats and songbirds often travel by night. The air is cooler, the winds calmer, and the stars serve as steady guides. Some climb high to ride tailwinds, others skim close to treetops where insects gather. They adjust altitude and bearing with the passing of weather systems, reading barometric changes like a living altimeter. Even within smaller home ranges, animals use complex mapping. Foxes remember caches of food, revisiting them through snow and time. Small birds maintain mental blueprints of berry bushes and safe branches, adjusting as seasons shift. Memory and navigation intertwine a quiet intelligence shaped by repetition and need. These abilities arise not from conscious planning but from evolution's patient design. Sensors vary: chemical, magnetic, visual, gravitational, but all serve one purpose: orientation through change. The planet provides gradients and cycles, and animals translate them into paths. A turtle feels inclination in muscle. A bee uses polarized light in the sky. A whale may follow sound channels that bend through layers of water, finding distant feeding grounds with sonic precision. Each species carries its own version of the map, encoded in cells and senses, refined over millennia. In these movements lies a reflection of human longing. We too look for bearings when the world feels large and directionless. We measure stars once charted by sailors, follow patterns written in the sea. Perhaps guidance is not always external. Perhaps it hums quietly beneath awareness, the way magnetism hums beneath feathers and shell. These travelers remind us that home is not lost in darkness, it waits, constant, as the field beneath our feet. As the tide shifts and the stars turn, the night offers its lesson. The earth is full of invisible lines, steady and kind. Life listens to them and moves accordingly. And somewhere in that calm, between pulse and horizon, is the same whisper that tells us where to rest. Heat shivers above a pale salt flat as a mirage. The air trembles, the horizon bends, and what seems to be water dissolves into light. In such places, where the world tests its own limits, life does not retreat. It adjusts, shapes, bodies, and even the smallest cells reimagine themselves to fit what would undo them. Survival here is not defiance. It is choreography, movement matched to pressure, rhythm attuned to place. In the coldest seas on Earth, ice fish drift through waters that stay near the freezing point of salt water. Their blood runs clear, almost transparent, for it carries no hemoglobin. Instead, they move oxygen through plasma itself, a slower but sufficient method in oxygen-rich Antarctic water. Inside them, antifreeze proteins bind to forming ice crystals, stopping their growth before they can slice through tissues. These molecules do not fight the cold. They coexist with it, shaping life that swims in liquid near solid, calm within what should be fatal. In their simplicity, they remind us that endurance can be elegant, not resistance, but refinement. Far to the north, under the dull gold of a polar sun, another creature wears its own secret warmth. The polar bear, often imagined as white incarnate, is not white at all. Its fur is translucent, scattering light like crushed glass, and its skin beneath is black, an absorber of every weak ray that touches it. Under that surface, thick layers of fat and dense fur seal in heat. A bear's world may drop to temperatures that would stop our breath, yet it walks unhurried across the ice, its body already designed to hold the sun it cannot see. Adaptation here is not reaction. It is anticipation written into every hair. Across the deserts, where heat comes not as a blanket but a hammer, camels answer differently. They carry their reserves not as water but as fat, stored high in humps. When the body burns that fat, it releases metabolic water, a slow trickle from energy itself. Their nostrils trap moisture from each exhalation, and their body temperature rises with the day, sparing sweat until absolutely necessary. Their blood cells are oval, not round, sliding through narrow vessels even when dehydration thickens the blood. Each of these choices, each quiet change, is a conversation between life and landscape. The desert does not soften, so the body learns to bend. High above, where air thins and clouds cling to peaks, another kind of endurance unfolds. Mammals that live among the summits breathe faster, pump stronger, and fill their blood with more red cells. Their hemoglobin binds oxygen with fierce devotion, stealing what little the air offers. Yet among people native to these same heights, the story evolves further. Generations have shaped genes that prevent the blood from thickening too much, balancing oxygen delivery with circulation. Their lungs and hearts adjust, not in struggle but in harmony with the altitude's slow rhythm. Breath becomes lighter, steadier, a partnership with the thin air itself. Plants answer with equal grace. In the desert, many keep their mouths, their stomata closed through the day, opening only at night when the heat withdraws. They capture carbon then and store it as acid, releasing it to sunlight the next morning for photosynthesis. This quiet system, called crassulation acid metabolism, saves water with mathematical precision. Their leaves are small, their surfaces waxed to reflect light and seal moisture. Some, like halophytes near coastal flats, take on the salt instead of fleeing it. They pack sodium into vacuoles, tiny chambers that quarantine what would otherwise poison them. Others excrete crystals of salt through leaf glands, turning the impossible landscape into a living mirror of adaptation. To live here is to balance intake and release, hunger and restraint, a patience mirrored in the stillness of the dunes. Beneath the earth, where light never arrives, the story changes again. Cave fish, blind and pale, drift through pools that know no sunrise. They have no need for pigment, no use for eyes. Instead, their bodies refine other senses, vibrations through water, faint traces of chemicals, the touch of current. Insects follow the same path, shedding what darkness renders useless. Energy saved becomes energy redirected. What seems like loss is reallocation, proof that purpose is not fixed, but fluid, shaped by what remains rather than what is gone. Even at the extremes of heat and acid, life speaks in steady tones. Near hydrothermal vents, thermophilic microbes endure scalding waters rich with sulfur. Their proteins fold in patterns that resist unwinding, built for temperatures that would destroy ordinary cells. In acidic springs, others acidophiles maintain internal neutrality while their surroundings corrode. Their membranes and enzymes are fortified, their chemistry disciplined. These are not chaotic survivors, but refined designs, small architectures that perform perfectly within narrow boundaries. To exist in such places is not to overcome, but to match. Across all these forms, from fish without blood to bears without color, from desert stems to molten springs, the rule remains the same. Structure follows place. Each design is not excess, but precision. Each adjustment a conversation with temperature, light, and pressure. Evolution here is not noise or conflict, but quiet calibration. Life aligns itself to rhythm, to cycle, to the exact edge of what can be endured. There is a lesson in this restraint. In a world that glorifies endurance as struggle, these lives whisper another truth. They persist not through strength, but through stillness. They find balance, surrendering to their surroundings until the boundary between body and environment fades. The polar bear's warmth, the camel's thirst, the ice fish's chill, all are simply responses, calm and efficient. They are proofs that the most lasting adaptations are quiet ones, and as the heat wavers above the salt flat, as the mirage vanishes into the air, we remember that stability does not mean sameness. It means tuning. It means listening. Every cell, every feather, every molecule has learned the same ancient song: to fit, to rest, to continue. At the edges of the habitable world, life makes its home not by conquering, but by belonging. And in that belonging, even the harshest places become steady rooms. A low tremor hums like a distant kettle beneath the still ground. It is faint, but always there, a quiet reminder that the earth never truly sleeps. Beneath our feet, ocean waves travel thousands of kilometers before colliding with distant coasts and seafloors. Their meeting sends tiny vibrations through rock and sediment, creating a constant background of motion called micro-seisms. These are not the sharp jolts of earthquakes, but gentle shivers, a soft, ceaseless pulse that instruments can hear even when we cannot. The planet breathes through these low rhythms, a steady murmur below the noise of storms and cities. Even without tectonic shifts, the Earth's surface trembles. Sensitive sensors record this hum in steady patterns, tracing how energy moves from sea to land. Scientists listen closely, transforming that vibration into maps of depth and density. When large earthquakes do occur, their seismic waves echo through the planet's interior like sound through a bell. By studying their reflections, researchers glimpse hidden layers, the slow churn of the mantle, the firm resilience of the inner core. It is through these echoes that we have learned. Our planet has both a liquid outer shell and a solid heart, each turning at its own pace. Like nested clocks, volcanoes speak in their own deep language. Before they erupt, their throats fill with harmonic tremors, rhythmic vibrations produced as magma rises. Instruments can detect these patterns long before any ash appears. A small change in pitch, a widening of tone, tells of pressure building beneath. Even in stillness, this communication continues, gas fluxes whispering of heat below, fumaroles breathing softly in volcanic sleep. In colder regions, glaciers join the chorus. They groan as they slide over stone, creak as they stretch and crack. When a piece breaks free, the sound is a clean, ringing report, carried far through frozen air. Beneath them, meltwater rivers rush unseen, drumming through tunnels of ice, their pulse as regular as a heartbeat. Across polar oceans, sea ice shifts and collides, creating sudden, sharp pops and long, moaning tones that move like slow percussion under moonlight. Animals add their voices too. Elephants send calls below the threshold of human hearing, deep infrasonic tones that travel for kilometers through air and soil. Through these sounds, they stay connected across vast plains, guiding family herds, calling to calves, remembering one another in the dark. In warmer seas, clouds of snapping shrimp fill the shallows with soft explosions. Each snap is a collapsing bubble, a tiny burst that joins countless others until the water itself seems to fizz with energy. Forests and rain take up gentler instruments. Layers of leaves absorb and scatter the wind, creating murmurs that shift with the canopy's shape. Rain organizes sound into delicate textures, fine pattern notes that vary with each tree and soil beneath. Humans, ever curious, capture and analyze these signatures. From coral reefs that sing at dusk to wetlands alive with insect choruses, each sound marks the vitality of a place. Through vibration, we learn what the eye cannot see, that life, in its quietest forms, is always moving. And as the night deepens, the planet's song continues, low and unending, reminding us that gentleness too has its rhythm. Evening quilts the field with hush. Shadows lengthen, soft and slow, and the last colors of day sink into the soil. Beneath that calm surface, another world continues without pause, a city of hidden motion and patient labor. The ground may seem still, but it hums with quiet life. Every handful of earth holds more living creatures than there are people on earth. Their work is ancient, tireless, and unseen, yet everything above depends on it. Earthworms are among the great builders of this underground realm. As they move, they tunnel through layers of mineral and organic matter, mixing what has fallen from above with what lies buried below. Their burrows become corridors for air and water, letting roots breathe and drink. In their wake, they leave behind cast small mounds of processed soil enriched with nutrients. Over time, these gentle diggers turn entire landscapes, creating fertile ground for forests, fields, and gardens. Rain finds its way into the channels they leave, soaking deep into the earth, stored and released slowly like a measured breath. Darwin once called earthworms the most important creatures in the history of the world. It was not exaggeration. The quiet movement of their bodies keeps the skin of the planet alive. Around them, arthropods, tiny beetles, mites, and springtails shred fallen leaves into fragments. They are the first step in turning death back into life. What they break apart, microbes can digest. Together, they accelerate decay, returning carbon, nitrogen, and minerals to circulation. Each leaf that falls eventually feeds the tree that dropped it, a loop that never ends. This slow conversion has its own rhythm, patient and sure. Nothing is wasted. Everything is transformed. Even stillness feeds motion in the soil. Threading between these small chambers runs another network, mycelium, the white filaments of fungi. These threads form highways through soil particles, carrying signals and sustenance between plant roots. They secrete enzymes that break down what is too complex for others to digest. Lignin, cellulose, the hard architecture of wood. In return for sugars from roots, they share the nutrients they release. Forests are built on this exchange. Through mycelial webs, trees support their young, warn their neighbors, and balance their needs. It is a communication not of sound, but of chemistry, a language written in carbon. Beneath every step you take, information flows quietly, shaping the growth above. Even in the harshest places, life begins again with collaboration. Lichens, partnerships between fungi and algae or cyanobacteria, colonize bare rock. The fungal partner provides structure and moisture. The photosynthetic one makes food from light. Together, they carve the first foothold for future ecosystems. Their acids slowly weather stone, freeing minerals, and building the first thin soils where none existed before. On mountain cliffs and volcanic plains, they are pioneers of patience. A lichen grows only millimeters in a year, but over centuries, it can turn rock into earth. Beneath mountains, caves evolve their own quiet architectures. Drop by drop, water filters through limestone, carrying dissolved minerals that crystallize as stalactites and stalagmites. These forms grow at less than the width of a fingernail each year, layering records of rainfall and atmosphere in their structure. A stalactite is a diary written in stone, holding centuries of climate within its rings. In the same dark spaces, microbes oxidize iron and sulfur, painting the cave walls with ochres, rusts, and gleaming mineral films. Even here, far from sunlight, color blooms through chemistry and life continues its patient craft. In deserts, the builders change, but the purpose remains. Biological soil crusts thin films of cyanobacteria, fungi, and mosses bind grains of sand together. They stabilize dunes, store moisture, and capture nitrogen from the air. When these crusts are disturbed by footsteps or tires, they can take years to recover. The surface may look barren, but every inch holds delicate architecture. The crust protects what lies below, preserving the possibility of future growth in a place ruled by dryness. At the edges of oceans, burrowing clams and worms reshape mud. Their movement aerates sediments, allowing bacteria to process sulfides that would otherwise build into poison. What seems like idle wriggling keeps entire coastal ecosystems breathing. Marshes, estuaries, mangroves all depend on this hidden maintenance. The boundary between land and sea stays balanced because countless small creatures keep the chemistry right, grain by grain. Everywhere, the pattern repeats. Cooperation in miniature building stability for the vast. Soil is not a backdrop to life. It is the living foundation. Beneath every forest path, every garden bed, every stretch of plain, lies a network of unspoken alliances. Microbes transform minerals. Fungi connect roots. Worms churn and fold the earth. Each contributes without pause or recognition, their rhythms steady as a heartbeat. To stand on the ground is to stand on millions of lives woven into one living fabric. They work where light never reaches, in corridors narrow enough for a drop of water to fill. And yet, from their collective effort rises every tree, every flower, every harvest. The soil listens to rain, remembers drought, and breathes in rhythm with the wind above. As the stars appear overhead, the earth below mirrors that quiet order. Cities of soil and stone stretch beneath the meadow, their citizens unseen but essential. Their work continues in the dark, patient and precise, shaping the very ground that holds you. You may never hear their footsteps, but every step you take depends on them. And when night deepens, those tiny architects keep their pace turning, mixing, binding, until dawn spills again across the fields. The earth breathes out, and life above stirs once more, supported by the endless labor of the world below. Cloudlight drifts like pale silk over a broad basin. The air is still, but beneath it lies a quiet story of movement of rivers that once ran, of storms that once sang. Land remembers water long after the storms pass. Every ridge and hollow is a page in that memory. Each curve of dune or ripple of salt crust a whisper of where the rain once fell. The Sahara, vast and dry, was not always a desert. Just a few thousand years ago, this sea of sand was a mosaic of lakes and grasslands. Monsoons swept northward, guided by the slow tilt of Earth's orbit, bringing rain that filled valleys and carved channels across what is now empty stone. In those brief green millennia, elephants roamed among reeds, fish swam through freshwater shallows, and people painted what they saw on the sheltering rock giraffes, hippos, and human figures standing beside still water. The record remains even after the rivers vanished. Beneath the dunes, ancient lakebeds rest like buried mirrors. Cores drawn from their sediments reveal grains of pollen from grasses and acacia trees that once covered the plain. Layers rich with clay and freshwater shells trace the rhythm of rise and fall, wet centuries followed by dry. As the orbital pattern shifted, the monsoon weakened and vegetation retreated southward. Dust took its place, fine and pale, carried into the air and across oceans. That dust scattered sunlight back into space, cooling parts of the atmosphere, changing how winds and clouds moved far from Africa's edge. In this way, the Sahara's drying didn't just transform a region, it touched the entire planet's breath. Elsewhere, where water still flows freely, land and river continue their dialogue. At every delta, the conversation between sediment, tide, and wave writes and rewrites the coast. When rivers carry more silt than the sea can sweep away, the shoreline grows outward, building new plains where mangroves and grasses root in the soft mud. When that balance falters, when dams trap sediment or sea levels rise, the delta begins to sink. Wetlands narrow, salt intrudes, birds and fish migrate to new estuaries, yet nothing is lost entirely. A delta is not erased, it simply changes its handwriting. The Mississippi, the Nile, the Mekong, each one a living script that adjusts with every storm and drought, every shift in human hand or ocean current. The Amazon holds a different rhythm. Within its vast canopy, billions of leaves draw water from the ground and release it again as vapor. This process, called evapotranspiration, forms clouds that fall back as rain, sometimes only a few hundred kilometers away, sometimes far beyond the forest's borders. The Amazon, in a sense, makes its own weather, breathing moisture into the sky that later feeds rivers and crops to the south and east. The forest is both sponge and fountain, capturing rainfall and returning it to the cycle. When trees fall, that balance trembles. When they stand, the rhythm continues. Every droplet lifted by a leaf carries a memory of soil, a thread in the endless weave between earth and air. In colder realms, water takes the form of patience. Glaciers remember winters that never ended. They grow when snow outweighs melt, pressing older layers into blue ice. As they advance, they grind rock beneath them, shaping valleys into deep, smooth U's. When the world warms, they retreat, leaving behind moraines, long ridges of stone that trace the edge of their reach. These marks outlast the ice itself. Even when the glacier is gone, the valley holds its memory in shape and silence. Meltwater streams still run through it, carrying sediment that nourishes rivers below. Mountains keep these cold echoes the way trees keep rings, a record of time, written in depth and distance. Some memories hide beneath the surface. In regions of limestone, where rain carries the faint taste of carbon dioxide, the ground slowly dissolves. Drop by drop, it opens chambers and tunnels, creating karst landscapes riddled with caves and springs. Sinkholes mark where ceilings have fallen, revealing the hidden architecture of water's slow persistence. Inside the caverns, stalactites grow downward and stalagmites rise upward, each one a history of rainfall. The spacing of their rings tells when the world outside was wet or dry, warm or cool. In their quiet drip, time thickens into shape. Far inland, in closed basins with no escape to the sea, evaporation writes a sharper story. Salt flats gleam where lakes once stood. When water evaporates, it leaves behind crusts of mineral white, cracked into geometric patterns by heat and thirst. Beneath them, brine seeps and reforms. In the Atacama, the Dead Sea, or Utah's Bonneville, these surfaces shimmer like mirrors of the sky, memories of vanished lakes preserved in crystal. The land holds them the way an old mind holds songs, incomplete but enduring. And on the broad floodplains of gentler rivers, the memory of rain flows in loops. Channels wander, meandering until they cut themselves off, leaving oxbow lakes that curve like forgotten commas across the plain. Each flood deposits fine sediment, layering the ground with nutrients that make the soil rich for centuries. It is here that civilizations have always returned to the Nile, the Ganges, the Tigris, because the land that remembers water is the land that feeds life. flood, settle, harvest, flood again. The pattern repeats, as sure as breathing. All these landscapes share one secret. They do not change at random. They shift through feedbacks and thresholds, a quiet conversation between cause and response. When climate warms, glaciers shrink, exposing darker rock that absorbs more sunlight, quickening the melt. When forests grow, they cool and moisten the air, inviting more rain. Each process remembers itself, echoing through time. Water teaches land to shape itself, to hold that shape until the lesson changes. At sunset, when light touches the edges of dunes or glints from a glacier's rim, the message is the same: patience. The world moves slowly, adjusting with rhythm rather than force. And though storms pass, their traces remain. The memory of rain is written everywhere, in stone, in salt, in the curve of a valley, in the shimmer of a flat. The land does not forget. It only waits for the next drop, the next pulse of cloudlight, to remind it once more of what it knows by heart. Blackness around a vent shimmers like invisible heat lace. In the stillness of the deep, where sunlight fades to memory, the ocean floor breathes with fire. Here, in the cracks of the planet's skin, heat rises from molten rock below, and water rich with minerals gushes into the cold abyss. The result is a strange beauty: columns of smoke that are not smoke at all, but towers of metal and stone forming in the dark. Around them, life stirs, not from warmth and light, but from chemistry alone. At these hydrothermal vents, the water scalds yet nourishes. It is loaded with hydrogen sulfide, methane, and iron, elements that react and release energy even in the absence of sunday. Microbes drift through this mineral fog and capture that energy directly, converting it into food. They perform chemosynthesis, a process as fundamental to the deep as photosynthesis is to the surface. Instead of sunlight, they rely on chemical gradients, the subtle difference between what the vent water holds and what the surrounding ocean lacks. This contrast becomes a source of power, a living battery that hums beneath the waves. The microbes thrive first, tiny but countless. Then larger beings arrive, tube worms rising like white pillars, clams with shells that gleam faintly in the gloom, shrimp and crabs drawn to the invisible warmth. None of them eat in the way surface creatures do. Inside their bodies, symbiotic bacteria carry out chemosynthesis, turning chemical energy into nourishment. These animals become walking ecosystems, carrying entire worlds within them. Around each vent, life forms a circle of dependence. Bacteria feeding worms, worms feeding crabs, crabs feeding the darkness with movement. A silent choreography in black water. Some vents are gentle, others raw. Temperatures near their openings can exceed 350 degrees Celsius. Yet just a few meters away, the water is near freezing. Between these extremes lies a narrow band where heat and chemistry meet in delicate balance. It is in such narrow bands that life often begins on edges, not centers. Even far from the ridges, cold seeps, where methane leaks from the seafloor support other communities. There, chemosynthetic bacteria feed on hydrocarbons, forming mats that ripple like pale fabric on the sediment. The deep ocean is not empty. It is full of quiet experiments, still running after billions of years. Scientists believe places like these may resemble Earth's earliest habitats. When the planet was young, sunlight could not easily reach the depths, and the air held little oxygen. Yet in the mineral cracks of ancient seas, similar chemical reactions may have built the first organic molecules. The vents offered metal catalysts, compartments of porous rock, and gradients of temperature and acidity that allowed molecules to combine, break apart, and recombine. Over time, the chaos became pattern. Some reactions stabilized, began to repeat, began to store energy. In that repetition, Soft, persistent, almost accidental life took its first breath. The same chemistry persists today. It hums inside every cell. Modern organisms still use gradients across membranes to drive energy production. The engines that power our own cells echo those early reactions in the vent water. The memory of that origin remains, written into the universal code of metabolism. When we breathe, we carry the signature of a world without air. When we eat, we draw on processes older than the moonlit tides. Not all beginnings are under the sea. On land, in steaming pools and geysers, heat-loving microbes called thermophiles live at the edges of boiling water. Some endure acid strong enough to dissolve metal. Others tolerate salt and radiation that would destroy most life. In these places, colorful microbial mats form in layers, each layer tuned to a precise temperature or chemical niche. The topmost bacteria might use sunlight, while those below rely on sulfur or iron. Centimeter by centimeter, these layers recreate a creator bore. History of survival, each band a page in a living archive of adaptation. Fossils show that such structures are ancient. Stromatolites, the oldest known records of life, were made by microbes trapping sediment and precipitating minerals in shallow seas. Some date back more than 3.5 billion years. Even now, in a few coastal lagoons, new stromatolites still grow, slow and steady, continuing the work their ancestors began. Each layer captures a moment of time, a record of light, chemistry, and endurance. When you look at them, you look at the handwriting of the first living architects. Early life was not grand or complex. It did not stride or speak or dream, but it endured. It found ways to capture energy, to divide, to remember. It learned to stabilize what worked and discard what didn't. Over immense stretches of time, those lessons shaped every living thing. The elegance of a leaf, the rhythm of a whale's heart, the fire of thought, all trace their lineage to reactions that once flickered in boiling water. Even now, the same forces continue. At vents, newly formed by tectonic rifts, life appears within months. Microbes colonize the hot rock, weaving invisible networks that later attract worms and crustaceans. The pattern repeats: heat, chemistry, growth. In each repetition, the planet renews its memory of creation. The deep ocean carries this continuity quietly, like a song sung without voice. Beginnings are rarely loud. They happen in the smallest corners, in the pause between chaos and order. They build without announcement. They test, fail, and begin again. From that patience comes everything that breathes. Somewhere beneath the waves, new vents open, new communities rise, and the ancient chemistry starts again, unhurried. The sea holds the same potential it always has, the ability to turn stone and water into life. As the black water shivers with unseen heat, you can imagine those first sparks still unfolding, not as flames, but as whispers. The world began, not with noise, but with a quiet conversation between rock and water, between energy and patience. The boiling in stone-bordered pools continues, tracing tiny lines that look like the first steps of life, and in their steady rhythm, the ocean dreams of its earliest dawn. Distant clouds soften into a single pale band above the horizon. The world lowers its voice and becomes familiar again. You have drifted across deep time, watched oceans move heat and light, and felt forests speak through filaments too fine to see. The planet's cycles have shown their patience, carbon passing from leaf to air and back, water climbing as vapor and falling as rain, minerals weathering from rock and returning to stone. Small bodies endure by slowing and waiting, and large ones adapt with spare efficiency, matching their shapes to ice, salt, height, and heat. Color and sound joined the quiet, from structural blues and auroral ribbons to micro-seisms and infrasonic calls that continue whether anyone listens or not. Animals read moonlight, magnetism, and scent like maps. They returned to places that fit their needs and to paths that fit their memories. Soil communities stitched the ground beneath every step, while lichens and microbes began the slow work that lets roots grip and blooms appear. Landscapes kept careful ledgers of rain, storing outlines of rivers that wandered and lakes that lifted and lowered with seasons and centuries. In the dark, chemistry still makes food from stone, and old methods continue their soft labor in vents and springs. Let your breath find a slower measure, like waves that do not hurry. The facts are steady and ask for nothing from you. They go on whether eyes are open or closed, day after day, night after night. You can rest in that steadiness, because steadiness is what Earth does best. When you wake, these cycles will still be turning, quiet and complete. For now, allow sleep to lift like a tide and carry you easily. The night is enough, and the ground beneath you remembers how to hold.